We all listen to the lectures and their accounts by people, one an insider, another one a scholar. What I will say is that I was a reporter of June 12th, along with Emeka and the members of NAPOC. We've had a lot of insights today. I have my account of June 12th, and I didn't participate in the writings of that book. I have a lot of writings on June 12th. What I will say is, from June 12th was the third annulment. In 1989, politicians formed party, the militaries and all those parties, and formed two parties, Social Democratic Party and NRC. I was a reporter at the Standard newspapers in Jos. And my conclusion, which was in writing and published, was the transition had ended if politicians will not stop the military and form their own parties. They have lost control over the process of transition to democracy. And I wrote in my column in the Standard that that was the end of the transition, and whatever happens subsequently, there will be no positive end results. From Standard, I left to Champion newspapers, where I was the political editor during the June 12th election of Champion newspapers. In 1991, the second annulment took place. The first primaries of the two political parties. The first one was won by late General Shehu Musa Yar'Adua in the Social Democratic Party. The second one was, the second winner was late Adamu Chiroma in the National Republican Convention. The military annulled the results. The simple reason was that they needed new breed, those were old breeds, and that they were all northerners. That was the game that was played. We waited to see if politicians were going to resist. Nothing happened. I again wrote in my column that the political class had already betrayed the process the second time. And therefore, it is clear that this election was going nowhere. I had a hot exchange with late Ojoma Dekwe in the media. He had written praising the transition, and I told him that there was no transition. And all these things are in writing. When the South Professor Mawa also wrote that something was very wrong with what the military were doing. I want us to understand here that the transition program was not programmed to succeed at all. And that's the conclusion I had. Besides that, before the election will hold, the military set up an alternative transition program headed by late Chief S.D. Akpata, late Margaret Ekpo, and 3 others, to design a new transition program for the military. We were preparing to hold an election, but the military had set up another transition program, and a report was submitted to the military 2 weeks or so to the election of June 12th. Again, I reminded Nigerians that, look, there will be no election. On the 6th of June, before the June 12th election, I wrote in my column on Sunday Champion that next week election, if it holds, it will be nullified. Anybody who has the Champion newspaper of June 12th, June 6, 1993, can go back and read it. Now, from all the happenings, it was very clear that the transition program was a game to end in a debacle for the military to succeed themselves. I have not yet had the opportunity to distill Babangida's book. I believe that not only will I read it, there are collections of writings on June 12th. Now, what is to be said here? As a reporter, I was saying in Abuja in August 1993, I came here as a political editor to cover the aftermath of the June 12th election. And I wrote a story which was published in Champion newspapers. I was still here when I was sacked. I read about my sack on the pages of newspapers when I went to Area 1 to buy newspaper. I saw on the front page of Weekend Concord that I had been sacked together with my editor Eben Njoku and the MD of Champion newspapers, Hero Dukomaya. Because the story I wrote actually tried to unearth some of the elements that were going on. So I was sacked while on duty without knowing. But the point to be made here is that as reporters, we fought for this democracy with our lives. We fought for this democracy. Indeed, in 1992, when it was very clear to us that the political class was not serious, we had to branch out of reporting to go and form the Campaign for Democracy in Jos. The Campaign for Democracy was formed by quite a number of people, reporters, journalists, activists, like Les Arowiwa. Atero Jega was in Jos, Les Fesu Yayu were all in Jos, Les Chimobani, Bekor and Somkuti, because we knew that the transition was becoming a joke and the military were not prepared to go. Now, clearly, there is no time. I'm not supposed to lecture today, but I can tell you that there are facts, there are issues concerning the transition. We are praising June 12th election because it ever took place, and I must give Professor Nwosu and his team the credit for being able to organize an election that was not to be. I hope we're together. Yeah. We must give Professor Nwosu and his team the credit for being able to hold an election that was not to be. Because the mere fact that another transition report had already been submitted meant that June 12th election was not supposed to take place. And it took place to his credit and maneuvering. I don't want to comment on the details in the military. I was not a soldier. But every intellectual and every person who was in journalism with the capacity to analyze events didn't need to wait until the annulment to know that it was clear that the military was not prepared to leave power through that transition. There was a day that I saw late Latif Jakonde. I was also a member of the editorial board of Champion Newspapers. He came to declare that he was going to contest election after the annulment of the first set of primaries. I said, Daddy, because I respect him a lot. He was a wonderful governor of Lagos. He did excellently. He would have done the, what do you call it, the metro line in Lagos, which was stopped, you know, unfortunately. But he was one man, a journalist like me, a reporter, an editor, first editor of Tribune newspapers, and now he is a strong leader. So I asked him, what have you seen in this transition that you are throwing your weight behind it? He said, well, it's got a say, sir. You can see, sir, with all your knowledge, that there will be no transition. All my writings are still there. So clearly, what we had, in my opinion, and by the facts, and what started from 1999 to June 12, 1993, was that the military programmed politicians in a circus. They go up, they stop them, they return them. It's like Fela zombie. That's how the politicians were doing at that time. Left turn, right turn, go back, come back, new breed, old breed. Clearly, as a reporter, very active at that time, I knew that something was absolutely wrong. I will always ask late Ojoma Dwekwe, our brother, the Dr. Doyo Okupe, Baba Gana Kingebe, because they were the leaders at that time. I asked, what have you people seen in this transition that you are still committed to it? And nobody was answering me. All we need was that everybody was just going on. So in other words, clearly, the political class went into a game that they were not ready for. And secondly, it's a pity that somebody of the caliber of Chief Mko Abiola was sacrificed in this process. I think he simply became a sacrificial lamb. Unfortunately, also, Lesho Yaradua, who was an active member in the process, also got sacrificed. It's a long story. Like I said, we can't tell the story today. I just came here as a guest, as one of the guests of my colleagues. But June 12th is a very sad national story. And I think the facts we know are still too limited. I believe we still need to do a lot of research about what happened. What clearly we were doing at that time was to risk our lives and fight for an end to military rule. And that's why some of us are very worried about the democracy. Very, very worried. Because democracy it runs on the basis that you have strong political parties that will compete in an election. Because without political competition, democracy is worse than military rule. So you must have strong political competition between parties that have the strength to offer alternative to citizens. Citizens can choose among those parties who whom they want to rule for a particular time. That's number one. So the political parties are the German foundations of the democratic system because they define the modes, they define the contest, they define the ideology for election in addition to the constitution. So where you don't have strong parties competing, then democracy is going to fail. Number two, democracy is based on inalienable right of citizens to elect people where the election is transparently free without question. Once you don't have a free election that is a culture that the political class is committed to, then you are going to have problems. Lastly, democracy must be based on an independent judiciary and an active media. And I'm worried that the media today, in my opinion, there are a lot of issues. We practice under military rule, which was more dangerous. I can give you a story. On the eve of June 12th, I did an analysis as a political editor in Champion News. Nonosuke is here. I did an analysis of the election and the outcome. I went around the state and analyzed, and I said June 12th, the odds favor SDP. And I did analysis that Abiola was going to win the election. But my paper was owned by an NRC leader, my late uncle, leader, father, Chief Nwanyawu of blessed memory. The Lord bless his soul. We really enjoyed him and we enjoyed the paper. He created an opportunity for us to express ourselves as professionals. Now, I wrote that SDP was going to win. My editor-in-chief was a bit worried because he was looking at the interests of the publisher. So he didn't touch the story, but he recaptioned it. June 12th, the odds favor NRC. But the body of the the analysis was saying quite another thing. So I went to him, I said, Daddy, please, you trained me here. And he was a wonderful person, Chief Odukomaya, editor of the Daily Times, 1969 to 1972. A great guy, still alive, he's almost 90 years now. He set up Concord newspaper for MCO and set up Champion newspaper. A great professional. Trained me. Every writing I wrote, he must call me back, train me, did great job for me. Unfortunately, I was also a victim of my story. We left together with him because the military sacked all of us. Now, I went back to him. I said, sir, this is a news analysis, not an opinion. A news analysis is a scientific report based on analysis of facts and figures about what was going to happen. So I beg him, please, don't change the headline in the Southern edition. If Abiola did not win, sack me. That is one thing I can say because I'm sure of what I was doing. In the end, he did the right thing, and Abiola won the election. Abiola won the election convincingly. There was no question about it. I was the one that attended the NRC convention in Port Harcourt. I traveled by road through Benin, and circulated to Port Harcourt to cover NRC convention that produced offer. It was very clear that this personality, the stature, not just the wealth. Abiola was an urbane person. And so he won the election very clearly. Unfortunately, it was not to be. Let me say that June 12th is a lesson for Nigerians. Democracy must be defended. It is not something you go to bed and sleep. It is a process. We must keep fighting for it and insist on what is right at all stages. Otherwise, it can still fail. Please, thank you very much for the privilege given to me to say it. Thank you. Thank you very much.